Hello and welcome back to 1874 in association with Match Bingo. If you head to 1874.io/matchbingo or scan the QR code on your screen if you're watching via YouTube, you'll be taken to their app. You'll be able to buy some bingo cards around the football, including the European Super Cup tonight. You buy yourself 4 bingo cards, you get one free. They cost £2 each, and you can win between £25 and £250 if you're lucky enough to win. I'm on a bad run with it at the moment, not run for a while, but I'm hoping that changes tonight with the Spurs game. So if you do sign up for that helps us as a channel, and I'd really, really appreciate it. Right, I'm Dan Bardell, your host, live here today to talk about Jacob Ramsey. Obviously, did a show last night with Jacob Tanswell. If you call Jacob at the moment, your future does appear to be up in the air. I'll just wait for a few more people to join live. Just going to talk around his kind of future at Villa. This is not me trying to be ITK or anything like that. Just talking about the options that are in front of Jacob Ramsey right now. I've put in the thumbnail for this video that, you know, his career feels at a crossroads. This feels like a big decision for Jacob Ramsey and a big moment in his career at his age. Still a young boy, you know, got the chance to go to a really, really big club in Newcastle who are playing Champions League, moving forward at a club, but also, moving forward at a pace. You know, they're in the Champions League. They're a club that wants to grow, but also, you know, he's a local boy. He's playing and living out his dream and all us Villa fans' dream as well, playing for Aston Villa, having come through the academy. So it must be a difficult decision for him. I think there's factors that need considering that we're going to go through. But yeah, Jacob Ramsey at the moment feels like his career is at a little bit of a crossroads. I will say before I get into it, it's very, very hot in my office, hence why I'm wearing a basketball vest, a Houston Rockets vest, a Chinese New Year version. It's uncomfortable for people to see me in a vest, I can see that, but I am too hot to wear anything else in my office, and I have to shut the window because there's kids in the garden making a lot of noise. So hello to Michael Huggins, hello to Chad Lavelle, and hello to Richard Earl, who are live with me right now. We did have some issues with sync last night when I did the live with Jacob, but I'm pretty sure that was an issue his end. Do let me know in the chat if I'm suddenly going out of sync, but I shouldn't be, because as I say, I'm pretty sure that was a Jacob problem, not a Dan Bardell problem. Right, Eddie, hello Eddie in New York, says toddlers having a tantrum, Villa play this weekend, transfer window drama, we're so back. That's going to be my life very, very soon, Eddie, but I hope you and your family are well in New York, and I hope you're heading to the Legends Bar on Saturday to watch Aston Villa smack Newcastle at Villa Park. Right then, hello Sam Goodall, hello Dean, hello King81 as well. Let's get into it, because otherwise I'm just going to spend the whole show saying hello to people. So the state of play at the moment is, from what I know, and again, I'm not trying to be ITK here, this is just what people have told me, is I think a few accounts, i.e. Fabrizio, slightly jumped the gun with how far this move is advanced. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, because obviously there's a chance it could happen. It feels like all options are on the table at the moment. He could go, he could stay, he could sign a new contract, he might decide to stay and not sign a new contract. So basically at the moment, I don't think anything is ruled out, but there's no smoke without fire, and it does feel that there is an opportunity for Jacob Ramsey to make a move to Newcastle if he so chooses, and if Villa so chooses. Well, reading Jacob's article on The Athletic this morning, along with his Newcastle United correspondent colleague, Jacob Ramsey's talking to Villa today. So maybe by the end of the day, maybe by tomorrow or by the end of the week, we'll know a little bit more about what Jacob Ramsey's thinking and about what the club's thinking. And I'd expect this to pick up pace and advance in the next few days. I don't see anything being confirmed or happening before that Newcastle game. I don't envisage him pulling on a Newcastle shirt and playing against Villa on Saturday. But there could be a chance that he is pulling on a Villa shirt and playing against Newcastle without really knowing which club he's going to be spending the season with. So that's an interesting kind of twist to the tale with this, that we've got Newcastle first game on Saturday, which I'm still absolutely buzzing for. Can't wait to be back at Villa Park on Saturday. So I'm just going to read you a couple of snippets from Jacob's article this morning, because I think they help in terms of adding a little bit of context. It says, Academy graduate Ramsey represents pure bookable profit, and although not a high earner in relative terms, his salary is manageable and there is scope for it to be improved. His departure would create room on the wage bill. Without selling him, it is unlikely they would be able to look at any more incomings this summer. I'm going to read the next bit of this as well. All parties have grown amenable to the idea of Ramsey leaving, even if contract negotiations to protect his market value have rumbled on for more than half a year, with his current deal expiring in 2027. Villa sources, speaking on the condition of anonymity, that's not a word, anonymity, I can't say that word, they want to remain anonymous, suggested a fee of 50 million earlier in the summer, but their asking price has since dropped. So there's a few interesting things there. First one kind of being that it feels a little bit like a Douglas Luiz situation where a contract offer's been on the table for a while. They haven't managed to agree. It hasn't been signed. So there's a risk there at Villa's end of his value diminishing if he doesn't sign a new contract. So right now, if he doesn't, his value is at the peak of what it's going to be right now. If Villa let this roll on into January or next summer and he hasn't signed a contract, his value is probably going to be halved, probably a bit over, probably 60%. He'll keep his value at around 60% of what they're valuing him at now, which is around 40 million. So Villa would be lucky to get 25 million in a year's time for Jacob Ramsey, let's say. So I think that's a factor that's at play to Villa. Another factor that I think's at play here from Villa's perspective is that Jacob Ramsey, I don't think, is in Villa's best 11 right now. I think if every Villa fan was to make their best 11, obviously some people would put Ramsey in it, but I think if Unai Emery was to pick his 11 for a cup final right now, I'm not sure that Ramsey is in there. I think it would be probably Gasson or Marlon on the right, Morgan Rogers in the middle, and then John McGinn on the left. So Ramsey isn't in Villa's best 11 at the moment. That's my opinion. So I think anyone who isn't in Villa's best 11 in this landscape that we're in the transfer market with PSR and SCR, they become almost sellable. Villa can sell them, and it's not the end of the world. That's just the way they have to look at things. And the difference with Ramsey is that he is that pure bookable profit. That makes it even more appealing to selling Ramsey. Now, if Ramsey was to go, that will enable Villa to improve their squad. That will enable Villa to bring in a defender, that right-sided centre-back / right-back that they've been looking at, and another attacker. If you're looking at the left-hand side, the left 10 role, which is where Ramsey plays, Buendia can play there and he's come into the fore in pre-season. I still think it's arguably Morgan Rogers' best position as a left 10. And then John McGinn, obviously, is the captain. He's going to play most weeks. He's played a lot of football there as well. I actually think it's his best position in this current Villa setup as well. So there's cover in that role. As good as Ramsey is, there is cover in that role. The other thing to factor in is that, have we seen the real Jacob Ramsey since 2023? And I'm sure Villa will be factoring this in. I don't think we have. I don't think we've seen the Ramsey that was at the level of Emery's kind of first half of the season, where I really thought this kid is the real deal here. He's got a massive future. He's going to be accelerating to the England squad. He was scoring lots of goals, driving forward with the ball, really creative, linking up with the play as well. Obviously, there was that partnership with Moreno down the left-hand side. He just looked like the world was at his feet. And then he got injured for England under-21s in a summer tournament, which they ended up winning. He's not been the same since. The season after that was very bitty. Every time he came back, he just seemed to break down again. Last season, in and out the side, I think he's a player a bit like Grealish that needs the rhythm of playing every week, and he's not been getting that. But he's not been getting that because really he hasn't been it's a double-edged sword, this, because I don't think he's been getting that football because he's not really contributing too many goals and assists when he does play. But then for him to get back in the rhythm, he needs to play. But Villa obviously had an embarrassment of riches in the second half of last season in the attacking positions, and he almost became a little bit of the forgotten man. I think you could definitely see Jacob Ramsey was a frustrated character. The sending off against Bournemouth, for example, at the end of the season, there's definitely a frustration there from Jacob Ramsey. Is he now looking at it and thinking, do I need a change of scenery? Is a change of scenery welcome? Is it going to help me? Now, whatever we think of Newcastle as Villa fans, and I'm not saying Newcastle are a bigger club than Villa because I don't think they are. At the moment, they've got Champions League football, which is something Jacob Ramsey experienced last season. He's probably looking at their 11 and maybe seeing a clearer path into their 11 at the moment. I said that I spoke to someone involved in Newcastle yesterday. They've said he's very much been earmarked for that left number 8 role, and Jacobs wrote the same in his article this morning. It's a slight change in role. It's a change from what he does for Villa. Maybe he fancies going back centrally where he made his name for Villa under Dean Smith and Steven Gerrard. I don't know. Maybe he just thinks he needs a refresh. Maybe he needs to get out of the bubble of being a Villa player, an academy boy. Players who come through the academy will often speak about, they feel that Ashley Cole spoke about this when he was talking about the Arsenal-Chelsea move, is that they don't feel they get the respect because they're kind of already in the building. And when they get new contracts, they don't feel like they get rewarded to the same level as everyone else. And he's probably seen Jacob Ramsey. A lot of players get rewarded, whereas he's not had a contract for a long time. Maybe Newcastle are offering more money. So I think there's a lot to factor into this at the moment. I think the killer thing for Ramsey has obviously been fitness has really, really impacted him. And I don't think he's been the same since injury. I don't have stats in front of me or numbers or metrics in front of me. To me, just me being honest, I think he's lost a yard of pace since those injuries. I don't think he kind of makes that first move carrying the ball as quickly as he used to do. Jacob Ramsey still very good at doing it, but not quite as sharp, not quite as rhythmic as he used to be, in my opinion. So I think he has lost that. And in the time he was kind of struggling and not making his way into the team, and it was all bitter, Morgan Rogers kind of plays in the same roles as him, has shown himself to be one of the best players in the Premier League. And if he were to be for sale tomorrow, Morgan Rogers, nearly every club in the Premier League would want him. At the moment, there's not loads of people looking at Jacob Ramsey. It's just Newcastle and West Ham. Wouldn't surprise me if Spurs maybe reared their head again. But it is a really difficult one because there's that sentimental value to Jacob Ramsey. Now, do we think differently around JJ because he's homegrown? On the face of it, his numbers weren't too dissimilar to Leon Bailey's last season. If you look at them, we'd all happily shift Leon Bailey because we don't have that attachment to him that we have to Jacob Ramsey. But if Leon Bailey had Jacob Ramsey's numbers from last season, we'd probably all be talking about, maybe we should let him go. Maybe we should let him go for that fee. I actually think it's a good fee for Villa as well, 40 million. It's probably at the top end of what I would expect them to be able to get for him now. Now, I think in 2023, you were probably looking at least 50 for Jacob. But bearing in mind what's happened since, I actually think 40 million's a pretty good fee for Jacob Ramsey for us. And I think Villa are probably looking at it that way as well. Plus, we haven't made that big sale this summer. The big sale hasn't come. I said in June with Max Stokes that I thought Ramsey was vulnerable and he could be that big sale. He's almost where he's a sellable asset. He's replaceable and he's arguably not in the best 11 at the moment. And to me, it's all adding up and all pointing towards him leaving now. Now, the Asensio rumours came back yesterday. Would I be happy with Ramsey out, Asensio in? Probably not. But I don't think it would be that. I think they're looking at Asensio anyway. They've kept their powder dry. They're waiting until the end of the window. I think they've done really well with that, not to panic, not to rush into buying someone. They'll get a better deal on Asensio than they would have got a month or so ago now. I think if Villa leave that right and play that right, they'll be able to get Asensio on a good deal. Now, Ramsey leaving, Jacob says in the article, as I already mentioned at the start, that gives Villa the wiggle room to get in an attacker and that centre-back and right-back. And I think Emery's really keen to get in that centre-back/right-back. Had Villa sold Ramsey 12 months ago for 40 million, you'd 100% be looking at Gertruda. Is in this Villa setup. Now, Villa probably can't go and get him from Leipzig now, but a player of that mould would have been really critical for Villa, especially in the first half of the season, could play midfield as well. Is that area of the team more in need of strengthening than the attack right now? Probably. If they lose Ramsey, is that still the case? Arguably. So I think that's the way Villa will probably be looking at it at the moment. There's a lot to factor in. There's a lot to think about. I just don't know. I'm really, really torn. I'm interested to see what people are saying in the chat here. I'm really, really interested. Hopefully nothing's changed whilst I've been reeling off my monologue there. Hopefully nothing's changed in the Jacob Ramsey scenario from what it was at this morning. But I'm interested to see what people are saying here in the chat. Michael Huggins says he doesn't think he will play on Saturday. Mark Sturch says can't have Jacob Ramsey holding us to ransom. I'm not sure that's exactly what's happening here, would be my thinking. He obviously wants to get the best deal possible for himself, and his agent will want to get the best deal possible for his client. If you know that another Premier League club is after you and you're going to get paid substantially more to go there, and Villa have got a contract offer and they're apart, you're obviously going to leverage those two things. You're obviously going to say to Villa, well, actually, I can go and get this elsewhere. Players are very big on wanting people to know their value and obviously getting as much money as they can. It's a career. We'd all be the same. We all want to get as much money in our jobs as we can. So I don't think he's holding Villa to ransom. I think he's just got an offer that's on the table that he knows is more than Villa's contract offer, and he's using that, which, as I say, I think we all would. David Ham says Ramsey to sign a new deal, no to Marco Asensio. Like I've said, I'm not sure the two things are linked at the moment. Daniel Hughes says we have to keep him. I really think there's a good player there if we can keep him fit. Homegrown, one of our own, he has to stay. Saying that 40 million is a good price. That's the bit I'm at. I think I really, really think 40 million is almost like Villa can't turn that down to be able to reshape their squad and give Emery what he wants. And remember as well, as we always say, absolutely nothing will happen without Unai Emery's sign-off. If Ramsey leaves to go to Newcastle, Emery's okay with that and okay with what's going to happen after that. So you do have to factor that in when things happen. Hello to McGames365 said they've got to go. Hopefully they're still watching. I Spy Media says 40 million is the best we will get to him. Chad LaBelle says, side note, love the 1992 channel. Thank you very much, Chad. More to come on the 1992 channel. Michael Huggins makes another valid point about it being a World Cup year. Is JJ looking at the England setup and thinking he's got more chances of getting in the England setup playing centrally? Is that a factor if he's playing centrally for Newcastle? Does that mean he becomes a central option for England? For Villa, we know where he's going to play when he plays. He hasn't really played anywhere else under Emery. It says that as that left 10. Kevin James says, unfortunately for Ramsey, he's injury prone and flattered to deceive for 2 seasons. So at 40 million and him thinking he's worth more, bye kid. Best of luck. I am torn. Again, it comes from being homegrown. I think if he wasn't homegrown, I probably would be thinking in a different way. And Kevin James says, no time for sentiment. He's not as good as we thought he'd be. Sorry, but thanks and goodbye, Jacob. You're the enemy now. You go into a competitor, is that something that's a dodgy aspect of this transfer? I don't know. But it seems to be that Premier League clubs are the ones that have the money. So to trade, you almost are forced to sell between each other. And we saw a lot of deals between Villa and Everton, Villa and Chelsea last summer as well. Newcastle, I would say, are our closest competitor. I think the top 4 will be the top 4 this season. Definitely the top 3 will be the top 3 in Liverpool, Arsenal and Man City. And then Chelsea, they've got to be aiming to be in the title race for sure. So 5th, Villa and Newcastle are both probably looking at that space. And although Newcastle have had a difficult summer, they are kind of coming out the other side of it now. They are making signings. They've got a couple in. Obviously, they need to know urgently what's happening with Isak, but they're still strengthening. They've got that defender, that right-sided centre-back that they've been looking for. If they get Ramsey in, that's another option in central midfield to replace Longstaff, who would be an upgrade. Elanga is probably an upgrade on the right-hand side as well. So despite all the dismay around Newcastle, they are actually doing things. It's not like they haven't done anything. So it is interesting. They just kind of need to know what's happening with Isak, and they desperately need to get a centre forward in the building. I'm just going to head to Twitter because I did put a tweet out and I got some good replies on there. So I just want to discuss around some of the tweets that were responding to my tweet that I put out. We'll ignore Flex because we don't need to listen to what he has to say at all. Porky Boxster NCC415 says, I watched him live a few years ago at Everton under Gerrard and I thought, wow, what a player. However, injuries have blighted him since that fateful under-21 competition and he's never really gone on. If Villa have made an offer, imagine it's what they feel he's worth. If he moves, I don't understand that. If Villa have made an offer, imagine it's what they feel he's worth. If he moves, so be it. Yeah, I think that's a fair post. Villa aren't going to break the bank for him at the moment. He's got the advantages with being homegrown in terms of squad registration, but if he does leave, it's not really the end of the world because you just kind of leave the space blank and Villa's squad's not massive anyway at the moment. But I think what he does for Villa to be able to shape the squad is probably more important at the moment. Rational Villain says, still hope he stays, except if he leaves clubs that they know what they're doing. Gary Davis says, I'm not a fan of it, but if he isn't accepting a new contract, it might be the right move. Losing one of our best ball carriers so close to the season to one of our rivals is not ideal. So yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? If he isn't signing the new deal, there's almost too much risk involved, to not take that 40 million. What else have we got here? I did like quite a few. Duck Boy says, devastated. People can say what they want about consistency, but he was quality last season while often injured. Not sure I agree with him being quality last season. Looked electric in pre-season. Not 100% sure I agree with that either. But most importantly, where has the romanticism gone? Local boy, academy graduate, should have been offered reasonable terms to stay. Kind of covered that, but if we look back to when Grealish left, it doesn't feel the same, and that probably tells you everything that you need to know. Villa are obviously a better club than they were when Grealish left, but we're hardly building the team around Ramsey at the moment. Michael Flynn says it's different to Grealish. He was a bigger loss, but Villa definitely got the better end of that deal. I think this might be good for JJ and Newcastle, but a sad day for our club. PSR means we need to keep producing homegrown talent, but also means we can't hold on to it. The rules don't help us in this aspect. I'm sure if in an ideal world, these rules aren't there and Villa aren't even considering selling Ramsey and they're keeping him as part of their squad. If you could guarantee to me we were seeing the Jacob Ramsey of 2023, there's absolutely no way I'd want him sold. And I don't want him sold now, but I can see why it might be happening. but there's no guarantees of getting that Jacob Ramsey from 2023. And with the contract situation and the 40 million on the table, I imagine it's pretty difficult for the club to turn that down. Yeah, Michael Dean says it's sadly the logical thing to do. In truth, he doesn't fit our system perfectly. To me, he's an attacking central mid shunted wide and forward, whereas goals and assists will probably never match what's required. Interesting viewpoint there. Don't completely disagree with that at all. And then we've got EC AVFC says doesn't score, doesn't really assist, and isn't as good as moving up the pitch as McGinn. If he was signed by Dean Smith, he'd have wanted out. If he was signed by Dean Smith, he'd have been wanted out years ago. Leon Bailey has given much more to us and gets way more abuse. It's really given much more to us. The opposite. I think maybe Leon Bailey's best season was more beneficial to Villa than Jacob Ramsey's best season was. I think you could probably argue that. I do come back to the numbers of last season. You know, if you look purely on numbers and didn't know it was Jacob Ramsey, I think most fans would look at those numbers and say, yeah, I'm prepared for that player to go if we can improve. That's the key thing. What do we do with the money? If we do the right thing with the money, it can be a good thing for Villa, but you can never guarantee that. Just as you can never guarantee that Ramsey's going to come back and be that player he was in 2023 either. I think that's about it. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. So thank you very much for those that have joined me live. It's always a pleasure to have people on live conversing with you when you're doing a solo show. So thank you very much. If you have watched via YouTube and if you've enjoyed it, if you could subscribe with your post notifications on, that would be great. Via audio, if you could leave us a 5-star review, leave us a comment, leave us something nice in the reviews on Apple, that would be really, really appreciated. Have a great day. Go back and check out the content last night with Jacob, and there's also a video I did with Neil as well around season prediction, so watch out for that as well. Try not to melt too much in the sun. I'm melting here, as you can probably see. Have a great rest of your day, and up the Villa.